Hello and welcome to my video. This painting is one that I painted for my Zoom class on the 15th of January this year, and it's only available, the video I'm meaning, for people who were either at the class or who are patrons via my Patreon site. So I thought it seemed to be quite popular, and so I decided that I would do one for just sort of YouTube general release, which is what I'm going to do now. And it's quite a simple sort of composition. You'll see this, I think, in other places on YouTube, and also in several classical paintings. And it's just the position of the ship, the type of sea, the angle of the ship, and all the little tricks that you can get in to make a seascape. Or is it a shipscape? I don't know, maybe it's a sea shipscape, so that it has movement in the painting. So that's what we're going to do. Off we go. Right, so for this one, I'm going to start it slightly differently because this isn't really like one of my tone list paintings. This is definitely more colourful. So I'm going to start with a bit of royal blue and some white, with a little bit of linseed oil added, and this is really just for the sky where it sort of meets the sea, but this will change. This is just to get me going. Okay, so we just want a line across there, and I mean there's a bit of oil, not a lot really. I suppose if you want to get technical. How much did I use? A dribble. That's it. I used a dribble. I suppose about half a thimble. If you can picture a thimble. So that's really, the sea is going to be down here. This is the sky upwards. So sky first. Get the sky done, finished, as far as I can. Then I put in the sea, and that doesn't have to be finished. And then the ship will go in last. Now, I guess I don't need to apologise, but you know, I'm English, so I apologise for my voice. This is not my normal voice that you hear on some of my, well, most of my videos. It sounds a little strained. I was recently diagnosed with congestive heart failure, so for some reason, it's affected my voice. It sounds like I'm really struggling to speak, but actually I'm not. This is just all the volume I can get out at the moment. So some days it comes back quite strong, and some days, like today, it sounds like I'm suffering, but I'm not really suffering. So let's get a bit of dark in there now. This is going to be a stormy, as you probably remember from the painting at the beginning. This is definitely not a calm day in the ocean. So I mean, I enjoy painting, full stop, but the sky is my, I suppose you could say it's my domain. So I get to have fun in the sky. And I've put in a little bit of, oh, by the way, the slightly darker blue, that's ultramarine. So it's royal blue, ultramarine, and now I'm putting in a little tiny amount of Japanese red. Now, people seem to get quite hung up on this, saying that they can't get Japanese red anywhere. You can use any red, doesn't matter. It's just, that's the red that I'm using. And I just like it. I think I like it because cadmium is has got too much blue in it already. Not that it matters on this, mind you, because this is all really quite blue anyway. But it's a much more pure red, I suppose. And as you can see, I'm not really taking too much trouble. This paint, by the way, will not drip. This is the amount of oil in it is so minimal. That it's almost not quite there, I suppose. And really, all I'm trying to do here is just get a bit of, well, you know, drama. Got to have my quota of drama. In a minute, I'm going to add some Payne's grey at the top. It's time I clean my easel too. This gripper at the top here is getting a bit caked up. Be able to use it as a palette soon. Tiny bit more oil. Just the size of my thumbnail, little pool size of my thumbnail. Give you an idea how little oil that is. Right, so now the original painting wasn't as dark as this at the top, but you know, with every painting you do, you learn a little bit more, and I wanted it to be darker at the top, but of course I was doing it in a live lesson. You don't get much time to sort of play around. You've got to get it right, and in fact did I mention at the beginning? Maybe I didn't. The painting, the original one, took about 39 minutes. So, sorry to those of you in the lesson. I'm supposed to paint for an hour. I must have cut it a bit short that day. But as usual, after the lesson, we all sit and talk for quite a long time. And in fact, I think it was a good 2 hours. And a little bit of light up there as well. I've reduced the size of my boards for videos at the moment, and also for my Zoom classes. This is basically half the size of the boards that I normally use. That's why I finished early. Didn't have so much paint to put down. So it's better in two ways, I suppose. One is that I can get through the painting quite quickly, and the other one is that I don't have to get my body in the way. Keeping out the way. Oh, the only thing you may see, I guess, is my arm, and much better than my shoulder. Right. So okay. So there's a start of the sky. It's quite interesting, I suppose, but it's not interesting enough. So here I have a palette knife with some white paint, and I think what we're going to do, we're going to just have something there. The way this composition works, okay, this is my theory on this composition, is that the mast, you see, will be like this. It'll be about there, that sort of angle. What I'm doing with the clouds is putting a heavier cloud this side, lighter cloud, smaller cloud this side. The angle of the mast obviously implies the ship is leaning this way. So I've got the eye, I'm pulling your eye this way. First of all, I'm putting you here to look at it. That's where the hull of the ship will be. Then the mast pulls you back. Then the big cloud pulls you this way because it's bigger than the small cloud. And then the sea will have a definite lift in that direction. So what's happening is you've got lots of different weight changes and directions in the painting. That is the thing that I think will give it the feeling of movement. So let's just get that. You see now, I'm not using a brush, but that's a perfectly acceptable cloud for some people. That's how easy it is to paint clouds. Once you stop trying, clouds start to appear actually as looking a bit like clouds, which is sort of quite important, I suppose. Okay, so here's the lighter cloud over here now. The start of it, anyway. It's going to change. I'll be going over that with a brush in a moment. And I think we'll just have a little bit of cloud trailing off over here to the left. So at the moment, these clouds are going to look, are looking quite sort of heavy, not heavy, no, that's the wrong word. They're looking quite striking. So I'm going to mute them down in a minute. so that I can then bring out the bits of the cloud that I want to have a bit more contrast in. This will never be like the original painting. You can't, you know, I mean, you can do copies of paintings, but it can take months. For this sort of thing, you know, I'm not trying to make a duplicate of the other painting. All I'm doing is you know, getting the same sort of feeling, I suppose. Okay, so there we go. Let's have a few streaks. I quite like a streak or two. And I think oh yes, someone asked me a very good question. You see, normally when I paint a landscape, I have these things called stoppers. So you have a landscape with whatever's going on, and you have something there and something here to keep the eye in the picture. Someone said, where are my stoppers? Well, there aren't any. The reason there aren't any is because the ship hopefully will draw your eye to it, because it's the only man-made object in the picture. And also the cloud positioning. That will keep the interest here. I could leave that, and I could put another cloud here, but I don't think I want to. There's enough going on there, I think, just to show you that the clouds do actually go off the edge of the painting. So let's get a completely clean brush, not necessarily a big one because it's not a particularly big painting. And all I want to do with this, a little bit of blurring. Let's do something up there just for the heck of it and see what it looks like. If you get a few lines of white, which I got, no, don't worry, just blur them out, or make them into something interesting. There's always that option. You see, a mistake isn't necessarily always going to be a disaster. It could lead you to much more interesting effects in your picture. What I'm doing here now, you see, I've got my sort of basic clouds. All I'm doing, and you may not be able to see it, although I don't know, it's a pretty good camera. I'm just taking out some streaks, just brush marks over on the left here. So there's a reasonable bunch of clouds. As I said, not exactly like the original, but of a similar type. Now I'm going to start working on the bottom again. What I want is I'll just put the painting back on the screen for you to look at the original. And you'll notice that there's a dark area, which is basically the sea, because the sea doesn't have to be sort of like pale blue. Sea, it depends what's going on up here where the sun is, how the light is bouncing down on the surface of the ocean. But you can get dark sea. Okay, so my ship's going to be sitting up on that. What I'm getting at here is, right, dead straight line for the horizon. That's fine for some pictures. Not all, because it depends where you are in the sea. By increasing the height of these waves here, I'm putting us down at the bottom, looking up, so we can't really see the distant horizon. All we can see is the immediate horizon, which is the wave or two that's just about to hit us. So just take those marks off there. Good. So really what I'm up to here is just, in fact I'm going to go a bit higher, I think. There we go. And then I want to bring these two together a little bit. When I say these two, I mean the sky and the sea. Just a little bit fuzzy over there on the left. And let's bring that down there. Put a little bit of paint on here just so I can get an idea of what's going to happen to the sea. And I think a little bit of blurring over there. With a few little, you know, little waves, just distant waves. The odd little hump. And now let's get some blue into that. So I'm thinking that I'm probably going to use the same brush, but all I'm going to do on it to start with is just add a little bit of ultramarine with a little touch of royal blue, and then start to get some new tones at the bottom here, hoping this picks up on the camera. Now if I leave a few white bits here, I'm not worrying about them because they actually look like the crests of waves, and that's a desirable effect. I'm not going to put too much oil in this, but just a bit. Sea is interesting stuff. I mean, we have the advantage, obviously, nowadays of photography. But when you think about people like, you know, well, basically any of the old masters who painted the sea well, there were some painters who just couldn't get their heads around it. They would paint beautiful landscape, but the sea would look like sort of stylized little choppy things. But there was some magnificent sea painters who just seemed to understand it, and I wonder whether they had photographic memory and they could just freeze it in their mind's eye. But it is not an easy thing to paint. This is the how many times have I painted the sea? When I was younger, I did quite a lot in my legal fakes, but then I stopped for decades. So this is my, I think it's probably about my third or fourth seascape in the last 45 years probably. And I'm quite enjoying it, funnily enough. I thought if you'd said anything to me about this, about painting the sea, 6 months ago, I would have probably answered with, oh, I probably won't ever paint the sea again because it's just, you know, there are sea painters and there are landscape painters, and I figured that maybe that's me done for the sea. Anyway, the reason I'm doing them now is because during one of my classes, someone asked me a very direct question. about whether I would be painting the sea. And I thought, well, I suppose I could. Why not? And I did. And I actually, fun enough, quite enjoyed it. It's good fun. And it's good to challenge yourself occasionally. So let's, and this, as you can see, it's not a lot of sea. And the brush, in comparison to the size of the painting, is actually quite massive for sea painting. But it makes it more interesting. This may be a two-parter, not sure, but you never know, depends how it goes. It's going all right at the moment. That doesn't necessarily mean it will continue to be all right. It may end up not all right. Right, so let's well, it's certainly heading the right way anyway. Okay, so the ship. I think that's maybe it for the sea at the moment. The ship is interesting. Now, what I'm going to do is paint a ship without painting a ship. It sounds like I'm setting myself up for something really quite difficult, and I guess I am. But that's just the way it goes. Now, let me just see which brush I'm going to use. Okay, right, so this is a filbert. And that filbert, those bristles there, are actually going to be the shape of the ship. Sounds weird, doesn't it? This is a very simple way to paint a ship. It's sort of Payne's grey with a bit of blue. It's going to be all pretty well the same colour as the sea because it's just a sort of silhouette of a ship. And the first thing you do is you do the hull of the boat or ship and make it simple. And at the moment, it doesn't look like anything much. And that's something you get in paintings until you actually finish. The trick is to get the feeling over. I'm wondering whether to make it slightly bigger. Maybe will I make it bigger? I don't know. Once you're happy with the hull, this is where it all starts to sort of take shape. Well, I hope it does anyway. You never know. Just pick up a little bit of blue and a little bit of Payne's grey. Just to tidy up down here. Okay. Now the this is the bit that people would normally find if they were painting a ship. They would find difficult. That is the mast and the rigging. So I've got a palette knife and I've got Payne's grey on it, and I've also got a little bit of ultramarine blue. I think I should probably zoom in just so that you can see more clearly what I'm at. Okay, so as you can see, the actual hull, there's not much to it. It's just a blob, as I said, and all I want to do is sort of assess the angle of the boat. It's obviously leaning this way because that's what I intended. So I've got to get the angle of the mast correct in relation to the actual ship. And this is where I hope I'm not going to be getting in the way. I don't think I will. Okay, right. Or will I? Right. Okay, so it's just a touch. Hopefully you can see that. It's just a sort of ghost image of where the mast is going to be. So the paint that was on the palette knife picked up some of the sky and it deposited it on the palette knife. So all I've done is just muck it around a little bit on the palette just to sort of lose that bit of white so that it goes back to being reasonably dark again. Now what I want to do here is try to make the mast and the rigging look reasonably complex. Now, actually, before I get back up the mast again, I'm going to do the whatever the mast is, the bit that sticks out the front here. No idea what you call that. If you know what it is, tell me. I suppose I could Google it. I may have made it a little bit too thick, but I'll work a way around that. So let's have some what look like complicated bits, because we're only after an impression here. We're not trying to do anything that's technically correct. Let's have something there. And usually I think the next one up is usually wider. Maybe I'll make that wide. Let's have that as the wide one. And of course I'm guessing that the sails are down because the sea's too rough. That's my excuse for not painting sails. I suppose when it's dry I could add sails, but at this stage, no, I'm going to just keep it simple. There we go, there's another one there. And I think, so a little bump or two. Because it wouldn't be flat, there would be stuff. Clutter. So maybe this is not a ship-shaped ship. It's a slightly untidy ship. And I think now we'll do a few non-details. I have no idea what they are, but hopefully they will look like something. And a little bit of rigging. Actually, I've only got one mast at the moment. I think I'll give the impression of another one. Let's just have a little hint of something else going on at the back there. Now onto the rigging. So every time I disappear, I'm just cleaning up the paint on the edge of the palette knife, just so that it's a clean colour. And I just want to put a few. I don't think ship painting gets much more simple than that. I mean, it's technically totally, completely wrong, obviously, but who cares? You know, it's looking as though it's sort of, well, I don't know what am I trying to say? It's giving the feeling of shipness. And I think we'll just have a little hint. Something down the front. If you look at, I always refer to this guy, William Turner. If you look at some of his seascapes, particularly towards the middle of his life, when he really seemed to get the hang of it, he does a lot of quite high detailed stuff on ships. Let's just have something sticking out there, because I think it should have something sticking out there. He did a lot of what I would call blob ships, where he's sort of trying to get away with this sort of effect, I think. Because I think he's not necessarily interested in the ship. He's much more interested in the feeling of the painting. And I have to say that's what I'm interested in. There are some absolutely incredible maritime artists around at the moment. And I am not trying to be one of them. And I think I might have succeeded. So, you know, this is a feeling painting. In fact, when I get slightly more practiced again at ships, I might even try for something like this, much bigger though. Okay. So I'm painting detail that isn't there. Just the odd mark. Complete minimalist. Now, I just want to put a few little wave crests around the ship, and then I think that'll be it for this one. At least, I think enough for this sitting anyway. So let's just have a few little white bits there. Yeah, I think until it dries off a bit, I think that may well be it. Although I don't think it'll hurt at the moment. Just to to get a few little sparkly bits. I have a little bit of a dilemma at the moment when I'm painting, because of my health at the moment. I noticed that when I'm doing something like this where I'm concentrating and trying to do not detail but, you know, careful stuff, unfortunately I keep holding my breath, and that's one thing I mustn't do. So you have to keep your oxygen level up, so I need to keep breathing. And of course the opposite to that is if I overbreathe, I get dizzy, because I basically end up hyperventilating. So I've got to concentrate. And maybe I should, when I'm doing fiddly stuff like this, maybe I should keep talking. That will keep me breathing properly. Anyway. Alright, so let's zoom back, see what sort of impression this gives us. So there we are, there's the beginnings of something anyway. So I think once that's dried off, I'll probably fiddle with it a bit more. But like I said, just as a quick reminder, you know, the thing that keeps you in the picture, hopefully, is the ship. The position where it is with the clouds, the fact that the heavy cloud and the lean this way gives it the feeling of motion, and I hope there's a little bit of motion in the sea. If you are painting sea, there's either the no detail way, which is this, or there's the high detail, and you have to choose which is the one you like. The problem is that if you painted a really high detailed sea with this painting of the ship, they wouldn't go together. It's all very impressionistic and very, you know, very sort of dashed off. I'm just going to add a little bit more. Yeah, you have to find the dividing line between the two. Don't overdo the detail. And high detail and impressionism on the same painting just don't work. Keep it either one or the other. This, for me, I've really enjoyed doing this. I find this is actually quite fun. And maybe I'll do a few more in the future. But anyway, we'll see. There I go, holding my breath again. Right. So yeah, just to go off the little crest on the waves. Don't overdo it. When you find that it's like clouds. You know, when people paint clouds, they'll paint a bit of a cloud that they really look, and then suddenly it's peppered with the same sort of effect all over. And that doesn't really work. Find a bit that you like, and just let it do its own thing. Don't spread it too much. In other words, I like that white line there, but below it, I want to simplify a little bit. So I am really going to stop there for now. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed it. If you want to come to a lesson, the details are below. I do two Saturdays every month. From the date of this video, the next one is in 2 days. In fact, Saturday the 29th, and the next ones in February will be on the 12th and the 26th. In March it's the 12th and the 26th, and in April it's the 16th and the 30th. So if you check on my Facebook page every now and then. If you look at Facebook, you will find the links to sign up if you want to, and if so, it'd be nice to meet you, talk to you. And anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.